We start with water all over the canvas and then some very basic light wash with yellow acrylics. It's a very gentle color. I'm just getting rid of all the white on the canvas. I will decide what is white later on. And then with the same sponge, doing a bit of a sketch, establishing the basic shapes, looking up between each mark, noticing the special shapes of the boat. Some of those boats at my feet I'm looking down upon and I can see them from above, while some of the boats further away I'm looking at them from the side. So there's a progression of shape from above all the way to being looked at from the side. And then once I have those blocked in, I'm beginning to add some of the darker colors, and I picked up basically just some blue, and as I place the blue on top of the yellow that is still wet, of course it will turn green. So that's why you see some of those boats as if I sketched them with green, because the two colors mixed. And then I started adding more of the blue for the sea beyond the harbor walls, and also by now, because this was a very sunny, warm day, some of those first layers dried, and I started going back over them with more of the blue, and you can see that those are blue. Also, I started working my way around my palette, so using a little bit of the pinks, a little bit of the oranges. I'm beginning to add the main shapes, and on top of that the main colors. Notably, anything that's dark will be painted with a cooler color. Anything that's sunlit will be painted with a warmer color. And you can also see that I go back with the white and establish some of those quirky shapes that are part of the fishing boats, and creating some of those contrasts that really draw your eyes in a painting. I still work with a sponge, so just take a good note of that. I'm not worried about any of the outlines, no strong sharp lines anywhere. It's just the basic shapes that I'm interested in. How big they are, how well they are placed, and whether or not they are lighter or darker than the space around them. And then I go back and make sure that I have all the reflections painted in there as well. Alright, as I work around the canvas, once I have one particular color in my hand, I will be going all over the canvas with that and make sure that that one color is well balanced. So you see me now dot around some of those oranges and create a good balance of the warm colors against the cool colors, which is a very basic tenet of the Impressionist techniques, the way they placed complementary colors against each other. Now I'm adding a little bit more of that greeny mixture for the color of the water. So you will see me add a lot more definition on top of these sponge marks with the knife. When you pick up the knife, you can start painting around any of the shapes. You have a second and a third chance to fix any of the outlines. So of course when you paint with a sponge, the lines, basically the contour of a shape, will be way off. When you pick up the knife, you are working with a ruler, and that is how you can fix a shape. You can make sure that the outlines, the contours are right. Of course, all these boats, most of them have a white line at the water, near the water, so that helps. And at the same time, I'm adding these structures on top of the boats, the antenna and whatever else they need to catch fish. I don't know, I'm not a fisherman. I just love to eat fish. So it's the same system I use always, is just picking up the one color, and once I work with it, I go look back at the canvas, look back at my original inspiration, the subject in front of me, and see where else I find an excuse to add that color that will be balancing the composition. So in the end goal is not to paint everything that's in front of me, but to create an impression of that scene that will help the viewer recall their own memories of the same place or a place that is similar to this. So a lot of work with a knife. When you start working with a knife, you also you use up a lot more color. So you will need to replenish your palette quite often. And also, this is about the time in the painting when you begin, uh, it looks a little bit more tedious because you start noticing all the big blocks, the main big bulky objects are there. So you start to add more definition, and that takes a little bit more attention. So you need to pay attention to how much definition you add. It's a typical mistake for beginner artists to add every single definition, every single line, every single pattern that they notice. That's really not necessary. In fact, you are taking away part of the fun for the viewer, because people love to make sense of your artwork and figure out the secret, figure out things that they don't really see because you haven't painted them in their full detail. So every time you see me disappear on this time lapse, I actually go down below my easel. There are all the paints, and I just get more paint. Like here, it looks like I had to go back for more of my blue. And layer by layer, each time as you keep working around the palette, going from color to color, going from shape to shape. Of course, on a sunny day like this, your artwork will dry quite fast, so you will have a chance to go back and add a second and a third layer, or even more than that. And that broken color effect, that is just a lovely thing that it was mostly used by the Impressionists. But when it comes to a harbor scene such as this, it really adds that rough, oily, messy, dirty, fish-smelling feel of a harbor scene with the boats that you are painting. So it's just a lot of fun. I highly recommend that if you have a chance to go out, go to Folkestone or go to any other working fishing harbor, it's the same system. Bring your canvas and set it up, make sure you're comfortable, and paint. So that's about Folkestone, as short as I can go. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you want to learn more, just look out for my upcoming video. There will be cityscapes, landscapes, everything.